There are rituals by which baseball is known. Casey at the Bat has been recited by schoolboys and vaudevillians for 100 years.
The outlook wasn't brilliant, but there must be 9 that day. The score stood 4-2, with but 1 inning.
In baseball, numbers speak louder than words. By his account, in 45 years on the stage, DeWolf Hopper recited Casey more than 10,000 times, each time taking exactly 5 minutes 40 seconds to reach the memorable last line.
My St. Casey has struck out.
In the June 3rd, 1988 issue of San Francisco's newspaper, The Examiner, the poem that is now known as Casey at the Bat was published. The poem received very little attention at the time, and a few weeks later, it was partially republished in the New York Sun, with the author listed as anonymous. A New Yorker named Archibald Gunter clipped out the poem and saved it to reference for a future novel. Weeks later, Gunter found another interesting article describing an upcoming performance at the Wallach Theater by comedian DeWolf Hopper, who was a friend of his. The August 1988 show had members from the New York and Chicago baseball teams in attendance, so Gunter shared Casey at the Bat with Hopper, and the performance was nothing short of legendary. The poem grew in popularity and has remained one of the most famous poems ever written. Now, Casey at the Bat was always one of my favorite poem stories about baseball, and a few years ago actually, I decided it might be a good idea to have a copy of the poem maybe on display, something in between other things I had on display, just to kind of fill up some space. And I got to thinking that I had remembered that there was a copy on the back of a Wheaties box at one time. So sure enough, a check of eBay, and I found a back panel from 1939. It was 100 years of baseball celebration, and they had Casey at the Bat, the full poem. So it was fairly inexpensive, the variety of prices depending on the condition. So I got the best condition for my budget, and kind of put it away and didn't think about it because I didn't have a place for it at the time. But once I pulled it out, going down the rabbit hole, of course, I got to thinking, well, I'd like to put something with it. And this is going to be an insight into how my collecting mind works. So I thought, well, let's find out who the author was, because it said anonymous, but in all actuality, it was written by a writer named Lawrence Thayer. And so I thought, well, maybe I could see if I could find an autograph of Thayer. And of course, it turned out that he's a very hard autograph to find. Not completely impossible. There have been some that have come up for auction, and they really weren't even that expensive, but they are hard to find. So I thought the next best thing was to get the autograph of the person that really made it famous, which was DeWolf Hopper. He was a comedic actor, stage actor, vaudevillian, and so of course DeWolf Hopper's autograph is actually quite plentiful, and a variety of prices. I found one that I kind of liked, but I kind of put it on hold because I wanted to see maybe I could find a picture of him to go along with it as well. And but much to my surprise, not only did I find some pictures of him, I found a card. This card on display here with the autograph is a 1911 T25 Between the Acts Actor Series. They had a whole series of actors, and this one is in pretty nice condition. So I went ahead and got that, and that kind of changed my mind on the autograph of which one to get. I got most of DeWolf Hopper's autographs are dated. So since this was a 1911 card, the closest I could find of a dated copy was 1910. So I thought that kind of went together well. And so in the meantime, I also was researching these T25 cards, And it turns out that they came in a tin of little cigar, between the acts, little cigars. And so I thought, well, what the heck? I'm going to look and see if I can maybe find a tin or something that said between the acts, little cigars, maybe just as an extra piece. And boy, it was really easy to find the tins. In fact, you can still find them and they're dirt cheap. So I started looking at them, and I noticed that a lot of them still had the stamp tax stamp on them, and they were all a little different. Some were similar, some were different. So that got me down the rabbit hole of actually investigating on what those stamps were and when they were issued. And I actually found one that had the stamp on it it's actually arranged. They didn't put out new stamps every year. But this particular tin stamp is from 1910 to 1920. So of course I wanted to get that one because that kind of fit in with the card and the autograph. And so I've had those on display, but it was kind of missing something. So actually just last month, right before Christmas, I found a Casey at the Bat Mudville bobblehead, and it just seemed like the right piece to kind of put in there. So we got that for Christmas, and kind of trying to tie it all together there. And so at the end here, I'll show each of these things individually. But that's my Casey at the Bat collection. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.